initial medical checks, the crew will be able to get a very quick ride home to the Florida coast, where they'll hop on a plane and make their way back over to Houston for further testing and, of course, to see their families who will be eagerly awaiting their arrival. It's important to note that Stephen, Woody, Sultan, Andrey will be getting assistance from these recovery teams while exiting the capsule. This is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members, as returning to the gravity environment can be a big toll on the vestibular system, responsible for maintaining balance and motion. So safety, again, is our #1 priority with this operation. You'll see the crew members helped out of the capsule one by one and assisted the few feet to the medical quarters on aboard the boat. If you've ever watched crews return on a Soyuz, this is the same process when astronauts are carried from the capsule to waiting chairs and then carried to waiting medical tents. This is also a period where anytime critical cargo can be recovered from the spacecraft, they're positioned right underneath the crew members, and they can be brought back into port relatively quickly. Once the ship and capsule return to shore, the recovery team will perform additional inspections before loading Dragon onto a flatbed truck at the SpaceX facility in Cape Canaveral for post-processing.
As part of the effort to make sure that there's a bit more room for crew egress within the capsule, we are currently detaching and removing the footrests that we saw attached to each of the 4 seats inside Dragon. This just helps to create a little bit more space and enable the crew to get out a little bit easier. We'll also likely see them put a small slide up against the side hatch, and that will allow the crew to kind of slide out a little bit to egress a bit easier. Yep, there's that slide.
It's like they've done this before.
Yeah, we've done it just a few times. We're now standing by for egress of the Crew-6 team. Very happy to see Steve, Woody, Andrey, and Sultan back on planet Earth. I'm sure they are also excited to come out, and as you mentioned, it's after the medical checks, they'll hop in the helicopter and go home, a quick ride. So I bet they're all getting really excited for the opportunity to see their families really soon.
And of course, the change of gravity from microgravity to 1G can be taxing on the body. So throughout that whole process, through the medical checks, through the helicopter ride, the plane ride, the crew will have facilities and will have the ability to rest through much of that journey. As, of course, this has been a taxing journey for them, and they'll have well-deserved rest along their journey back home to Houston.
It varies mission to mission, crew by crew, but we usually see either the pilot or the commander egress first. So with this view here, Commander Steve Bowen is in that left seat, and pilot Woody Hoburg is in the seat on the right. To Woody's right is Andrey Fedyaev, and to Steve's left is Sultan Alneyadi. So usually it makes it easier if the center seats are vacated prior to the 2 mission specialist seats, but it really varies crew to crew. We did see them detach and remove the footrests from all 4 seats to also help add a bit more moving room within the interior of the capsule.
There's a series of checks, so it's not as easy as just unbuckling and getting out of your seat. The seats, of course, and suits are designed with human spaceflight in mind. So the suits are connected to the seats via umbilical that can provide communications as well as air, nitrox purge that the crew is able to breathe. It's a little bit more oxygen than your standard breathing air. And so there is some technical specifics to get them egressed. So it is quite a process. So we're just standing by for them to get out of their seats. Does look like Steve will be the first out. NASA astronaut Steve Bowen, the first to exit the Dragon spacecraft.
I think I see a big smile on his face.
Helped up by the recovery teams.
Now being seated in a rolling chair to help move him back to the medical bay, where he will get a quick checkout with the flight surgeon.
And again, this is standard procedure.
We can see some applause happening on deck. Looks like our pilot, Woody Hoburg, will be the next to egress. For those of you that have just joined us, we are now standing by for egress of the remaining 3 Crew-6 members. We can now see Woody Hoburg making his way, pilot of Crew-6, making his way down the slide. Looks like some excitement, possibly some more applause happening off camera. Remaining inside are mission specialists Sultan Alneyadi and Andrey Fedyaev. Commander Steve Bowen has already egressed. Some more applause there on the deck of the recovery vessel. Dragon splashed down just under an hour ago at 9:17 p.m. Pacific, 12:17 a.m. Eastern. So just under an hour ago, they made contact with the ocean surface, and here we see them now egressing and beginning the last steps before being able to make their way home.
That's right. The 2 NASA astronauts have exited the Dragon spacecraft and are now in the medical facilities as part of the standard procedures and checks necessary before they board the helicopters and take the flight back to shore. Of course, there are the 2 mission specialists left in the capsule. If they follow standard procedure, it should be Andrey Fedyaev that we see egress the capsule next.
Gary, you mentioned standard procedure. I think that's an important thing to note, that in addition to the teams rehearsing both joint operations, everywhere from pre-flight training to, the things that they were doing in space to the things that they were monitoring while Dragon was on orbit and making its way home. Everything is very carefully choreographed in terms of the process in which we execute these operations. So even from a recovery standpoint, you mentioned before that our recovery times from the first time we did this with humans on Demo 2, again using this same capsule. This capsule has flown 4 times now. Our operations have gotten more efficient, and they are documented step by step. And so, of course, whenever it comes to egress, there is a little bit of flexibility that if a crew member needs or wants to egress sooner than later, we can do that. But generally, as I mentioned before, we do try to vacate the 2 center seats first. We can now see 2 more leg rests being removed footrests being removed from the seats inside the capsule, again, just to create a little bit more room.
Yeah, you mentioned the efficiencies, Kate. We're inside of an hour now, and this is from the moment of splashdown at 12:17 p.m. Eastern. It's now 1:14, or 12:17 a.m. Eastern, rather. So it's now 1:14 a.m. Eastern, and we're seeing the 3rd crew member egress. So we're just an hour, really, after splashing down that the crew is able to set foot on the recovery vessel. There's Roscosmos cosmonaut Andrey Fedyaev being assisted by the recovery teams onto the rolling chair. He'll also be positioned over to the medical facilities. Last remaining crew member inside Dragon Endeavour now is Emirati astronaut Sultan Alneyadi, completing 186 days in space.
Got some happy waves there from Andrey. More applause. And the last footrest being detached from Sultan Alneyadi's chair.
You see SpaceX and Emirati recovery personnel positioned outside the Dragon capsule, ready to receive Sultan Alneyadi. Again, he is the last remaining crew member inside Dragon Endeavour.
And if he makes it out in the next minute, which it looks like he is, it will be exactly 1 hour on the dot after making splashdown.
Not bad.
60 minutes exactly. So once again, nominal operations are to assist all crew members to the medical bay. The return to gravity can be pretty jarring on the human body. So we slide them down a little Dragon fun slide, assist them into the wheeled chair, and roll them over to the medical bay. And just like that, the 4th crew member, 1 hour exactly on the nose since splashdown, has now egressed from Dragon Endeavour. Looks like smiles and waves and applause all around.
All right. All 4 crew members have egressed Dragon successfully. So now that Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey are safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by the NASA medical teams and, of course, the international teams. We're going to wrap up our live coverage of their return. This all kicked off on March 2nd, 2023 from historic Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. After a successful liftoff and separation from Falcon 9, Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey made a 25-hour flight on board Dragon to the International Space Station. Since arriving at the station, they spent nearly 6 months as members of Expedition 68 and 69, executing science experiments, spacewalks, and repairs while aboard the orbiting laboratory, actually more than 6 months.
That's right. And their journey home began about 18 hours ago on September 3rd when they closed the hatch to Dragon and undocked from the space station at 4:05 p.m. Pacific time. Then, after 5 successful departure burns and a phasing burn to line up their orbit, Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey rested for a few hours before waking up to prepare for re-entry this morning. We jettisoned Dragon's trunk and performed our final on-orbit maneuver, the 16-minute-long deorbit burn, at 8:24 p.m. Pacific time, 3:24 GMT, and that is what put Dragon on its path home to Earth. The spacecraft re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and slowed its descent with successful deployments of 2 drogue parachutes, followed by 4 main parachutes, and with final splashdown occurring off the coast of Florida near Jacksonville at 9:17 p.m. Pacific time, 4:17 GMT. Following that successful splashdown, we saw the SpaceX recovery experts move in really quickly and prepare Dragon Endeavour for its lift onto the recovery vessel. And just almost exactly an hour following splashdown, we saw Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey make their way out of Dragon and into the recovery ship's medical facilities, safe and sound.
So after the medical facilities and medical checks, they'll catch a helicopter flight back to shore where they'll transfer to the aircraft that will take them home. Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey will take a NASA plane for the short flight back to Houston, and later Andrey will fly back to Russia and Sultan to the UAE. They'll be reunited with families to bring an end to the mission. It's been an honor and a privilege to share their journey with all of you as we continue in this new era of human spaceflight.
Return today marks the end of the direct handover that we just executed after successfully launching the Crew-7 mission to the space station just a little over a week ago. It has been an incredible honor and joy to share this mission with the public. All the teams from SpaceX and NASA continue to work hard to keep America leading the world in human spaceflight. Continue to follow SpaceX and NASA online and on social media for updates for the very latest on crew and cargo flights to and from the International Space Station.
And we'll continue to share the progress of Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey on social media as they travel back home. We also have a post-splashdown media telecon coming up at approximately 11 p.m. Pacific, 2 a.m. Eastern, where leadership from NASA, the UAE, SpaceX will share a final update as we conclude this successful mission. So we'll say thank you one more time for tuning in and cheering on Steve, Woody, Sultan, and Andrey as they made their return back to planet Earth. From all of us at NASA and SpaceX, welcome home, Crew-6. So long.